What?
Testing, testing.
What? right, we're going to call to order the City Council meeting for Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, Lisa.
Jeff Dulke.
Here.
Tracy Coach. Here. Bill Leclerc.
Here.
Darla Leclerc.
Here.
Tim Patry.
Here.
Jason Ring. Oh, the old one, sorry. Bonnie Shimalunas.
We're like, who?
Bonnie Shimalunas. Here. Scott Steckmesser.
Here.
Adam Wachowski.
Here. We can skip over number 4, seeing everyone is here. No one will be joining us via remote location. On to number 5, input from the public. Anyone wishing to address the council on something that's on this agenda, something they'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, and state your name and address for the record. Input from the public.
My name is William Otto. I'm living at 1800 Jefferson Street and here in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. I think the Xander Park. I think the playground should have stayed at Xander Park. I think it was a perfectly fine working playground, and there were some trees that were removed and they put in new ones. And I think the drainage. I just think that the trees should have stayed there, and it's just my opinion.
Thank you, William. Mike, do you want to speak anything to that? I know we got a pretty good plan there. And I had this same discussion, I know, online on Facebook with some other people, but we'll let Mike dive into this if he wishes.
The old playground at Xander was removed just before I started last year, I think. Pretty rough shape. It would have had to been replaced at some point very soon. And the flooding over there makes it really not an ideal situation for a playground at all, at least a traditional style playground. We also removed 31 dead trees out of there that are all dangerous in what's going to be a pretty cool natural play area here eventually. So yeah, there is going to be a pretty, hopefully, an awesome new nature play area in that old playground bed that we got $50,000 from the West Foundation in partnership with the library. So there's going to be lots of rocks to jump on, some wood play features, a story trail, native plantings that are going to help hopefully soak up some of the water and the water issues there. So hopefully very cool things coming soon for Xander.
Precisely what I explained online too were some plantings that were going to act like a rain garden, not be a rain garden, but can help absorb some of that water. And we were going to stay out of the wettest part of that park, which is kind of where you built that walk around. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that there is kind of a ridge, sort of. The driest part of the park is around the old playground bed. So there is now a gravel up, kind of a little bit higher path. And then we're going to build a boardwalk that's going to hop over the really wet spot to get over to that new location. So you'll be able to stay on the boardwalk or on a path to keep your feet dry if you want to and look at storyboards, or you can go hop across the rocks and play on the new nature play features, types of things like that. Yeah, we planted 3 different species of new trees there, all funded by the grant, all appropriate for that wetland soil, swamp white oak, red cedar, and some birch as well. So all appropriate for that site.
A lot of that park is wetland, and a lot of that woods is wetland. The woods we do not own, that belongs to Woodland Dunes. For those thinking that we do own that, we do not, because that was another thing that was brought up on Facebook. So very nicely done, Mike. Thank you for that. Anyone else input from the public? Input from the public. You're next.
Well, I did get a question. Basically, this person said, why is a lower income unit getting the best land available, meaning by the river? That's all they said. That's all I'll say.
Any other input from the public?
I would just respond to that person. We do have a lot of blight along our rivers as well. So respectfully, $14 million in new development isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, then we will go on to council communications. Any letters or other communications from citizens that council members would like to share with the rest of the council, excuse me.
You don't want to go first? Okay, I'll go first. The car show, I don't know how long ago it was now, a week and a half or so.
Yeah, week and a half.
I talked to at least 102 people. I kept track as I was talking to people. Out of that, 100 people loved the park. 2 people liked the park. So it was pretty unanimous that everyone loved the park. The new Central Park. They loved that the kids were running around the splash pad. Thanks to Park and Recs and Public Work for getting it as far as it was for the car show. That was nice to be able to kind of showcase how it looked and everything like that. So nice job to everyone involved.
I got several again. Somebody had asked me if the used park equipment that's gonna be taken out in Neshota Beach, if it's not that bad a condition, is it gonna be replaced in some of the other locations that are really in bad shape?
But I'll let Mike speak to that, but I think a lot of it's in bad shape, and I think whatever is usable will probably stay, but Mike can speak.
Yeah, so the playground equipment, it's the 2 kind of main play structures that are going to be removed. There's new, within the last 2 or 3 years, some musical equipment and little swing things in the rectangular wood chip area. Those are all staying put. We think we're going to salvage the swing sets as well. Those are in good condition if we're putting more wood chips into those, but the main structures are quite dated, need of repair, and most of those things are on such, like, they're set into concrete. So we're not going to be gentle when we pull those old playground structures out. There's really no salvaging them, at least in any way that would be safe to use for anything else, for repurposing. So, yeah.
By the way, if there aren't any objections, Mike, while you're up there, could you give an update on the zip line? Because that's very popular and it was out of commission for a while.
Last I knew, the vendor was getting us a new one, hopefully this week or next week. So it's just been a slow go to get the new right cable there. But hopefully soon, next week or so, I hope.
Is that a warranty issue or a repair?
Yeah, actually it was out of warranty. It was a year-long warranty. We were just almost a year and a half, but they actually were very nice to us and put us back under warranty and replaced it for free. So,
Same
Very
time.
nice.
That is fantastic.
Good.
Good to
That's
hear.
awesome. Thank you.
Then I got another one. Somebody had asked me how the arcade managed to get a liquor license when it's primarily kids that are there. And a bar restaurants in town have to have over 50% food to get a liquor license, or to have people be able to come in there without their parents to eat.
Of Chief, that,
Or Ben,
believe there
I
are
forgot
two
to ask you that one
distinct
before.
areas within the arcade. But,
So they were approved to get a license, however, they didn't follow through with some of those deals. So in the temporary time that they had to get a license, they did not renew it, is my understanding.
So they do not have a license currently?
Correct.
Okay, I was curious because I know we had that conversation after as well, because when it came to us and we spoke, it was for the entire building. When I think when they actually approached the city at one time is only for a specific spot of that building. And I think that changed over time.
Okay.
There was some discussion about a practice where they typically would only use part of the building, but that will be a moot point until we get a complete new application.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Let's see here. Somebody had asked me, it was quite a while ago, I brought it up a few times now. As a city, did we ever look into the possibility of the reformatory coming into the city area? Like out in the industrial park to
I think
rezone
we've
it?
had some discussion with our state reps about it, but as far as a formal communication, no. And that has been identified as a goal in our goals listing. That's a good point. I don't know where the state stands, like on replacing the Green Bay Correctional Facility. That's the big one that's out there. And to be honest, I haven't heard much about it even in the context of the budget
Right.
that's going on right now. I tell you what, Lisa, help me make a note on this. I'll check with Senator Jacques' office just what the status is on that and bring that back along with an update on the next regular agenda.
Right, because in doing a little bit of research on it, there's 11,000 inmates there, or 1,100 inmates there roughly. And they said it brings in about 11,000 people a year into an area. So that's people coming through the city spending money and
Mhm.
something. And that's a lot of people using water.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Let's see. Oh, this was kind of an odd one. This was directed at Greg. People want to know if it's a splash pad or a water feature.
Well,
'Cause you-
I
I've
use,
heard it both
I
ways,
think the
both ways.
committee, in fact, had agreed generally, we're gonna use the term water feature because splash pad often creates an image of something a lot larger, you know, the overhead
The dump
dumping
buckets
bucket and the Wisconsin Dells or aquatic center kind of feature. It's pretty cool, but that's why we've been, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer, but why we've been calling it a water feature, because I have seen some social media comments out there that as a splash pad, it may not quite measure up to what people have seen in other places. So it's semantics, but I think we pretty consistently have referred to it as a water feature. Yeah.
Okay.
We can call it a splash pad though, that's okay.
And this one is probably an IT question. People wanted to know, well, two people asked me on separate occasions when Bonnie was debating a point with Darla and Greg, why her mic got cut out. Because people couldn't hear what she was saying.
It got inadvertently muted, our IT person, so that would have been operator error on the council member's part.
Okay.
Okay, there was no,
I think I know why I cut out. I accidentally pushed myself off. So, and then I realized it and I pushed myself back on. I know that I have a quiet voice and I try to be conscious of making sure I'm speaking into the mic, but I'm sorry about that. If they're listening,
yeah, do
that
tell
was
those people
my
it was,
fault.
yeah, no nefarious staff intent to silence Councilmember Shimolinas or anybody else.
I'm sure they're watching, so
Yeah.
I don't have to get back to them.
All right.
Otherwise,
Well,
they would have known.
yeah.
Okay, that's all I have.
We'll have to start watching those red lights better that light up when we talk to make sure they're coming on.
Anybody else, council communications? All right, I just have a couple things I want to touch on. Kudos to Parks and Rec and the outstanding job that they did all of last week, from Sunday, Thursday, setting up to ripping that thing down. 2 events the following day, car show and beach bash, and those guys were on it. I mean, with a small crew, those guys set up and tear down like nobody else does. And without a doubt, everybody was on time with everyone's start time. Everything started on time because they had everything out there and on time. And they were good throughout the events, making sure everything was picked up, wrapped up, and you had everything you need. So kudos to Jared Rohr and his staff, Mike, supervising that whole department. So nice job by those guys. Same kudos on the 4th of July. While everybody else has a day off and enjoying festivities and fryouts and everything else, our Parks and Rec department is working extremely hard to make sure our beach is the best it can possibly be and making sure it is clean as it can possibly be. Does that mean it was perfect? Of course not. People are pigs. We know that. There was littering on the beach, but Parks and Rec was through there all day long, cleaning up everything, cleaning restrooms, and then heading down to Walsh Field and making sure everything was done there. I saw those guys throughout the day, so hats off to them. Same thing with Chief Minor and his crew. PD was on well display, which is good. You get a lot of people in town. You want to deter anything that could possibly happen. I don't think any big incidents, at least none that I heard of. Everyone seemed to have a good time at the beach from people I spoke with. So hats off to Chief Minor and his crew, and obviously the fire department providing all the fire safety at the fireworks. It was a tremendous show. My family enjoyed it immensely. So nice job to all involved with that. One thing I did email Matt and Greg on with street sweeping. It looks like we have another guy hired. Is that correct? We were short-staffed in that department here for probably at least the last month or so, I would imagine. And hopefully
Yeah,
getting
a good part of the year.
good part of the year. So hopefully getting back on track with some of the street sweeping. I know I had some complaints on that last meeting. I brought it up and I had a couple more I fielded on Monday. So just wanted to make sure that those people know that we are addressing it and we are working towards it. So that's all I had. On to number 7, council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Anyone have anything they need to report on? Darla?
For Main Street, you might have noticed that there are art banners at the intersections that bookcase the new park, plus some, I can't remember if they go north or south, but we have several intersections that have these. I think we had 22 art banners that went up, so.
Are you talking the ones that are sponsored by
Yes.
like Community First Credit Unions
Right.
on like 90% of them? Yeah, I think those go all the way up to Quick Trip and all the way down. I think
Yeah,
it
we had
spreads throughout the whole downtown.
Quite a
So
few.
I saw them the other day.
So, and they look spectacular, especially like with our yarn bomb wrappings and the flowers. So, I mean, the downtown is looking really pretty. It's looking really nice. That's about all I've got to report on right now. And then Environmental Advisory Board, we are still going forward with some of our initiatives. We did go from monthly meetings to bi-monthly meetings. So this week will be, or this month, we will be having a meeting. We didn't have one in June. So, but I mean, you know, for EAB and Main Street, a lot's going on. I mean, there's a lot of action on both. So.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, it's the city manager's report. Greg.
First up, we just note the cover photo was it's Tommy Rocker, the Elvis impersonator, always has a great following for his show at Central Park. That was last week, Thursday, from the back of the crowd. Whole lot of people brought folding chairs, like always do, and the benches down front were well used as well. It's just an outstanding evening. As far as my report, first of all, people make things happen. As Adam noted earlier, the level of service provided by the city is outstanding, frankly, throughout our departments. We do have a vacancy within the police ranks, even after some recent recruiting and hiring. Interviews have been completed, and a finalist list of 3 candidates was approved last week by the Police and Fire Commission. So there's a conditional offer out to a candidate, and we hope to be able to report back from the PD in 2 weeks on the status. There also is a vacancy as a result of the chief's promotion for firefighter paramedic, reviewing candidates from an eligibility list that was previously approved by the Police Fire Commission. By the way, would like to acknowledge Mike Canty from our Police Fire Commission, who often is in attendance at our meetings and shows a great interest in both of those departments, and like the rest of the PFC supports their working. With Dave Marock's recent promotion to chief, we of course have an opening in the position of assistant chief, which he previously held, and there were a number of internal candidates. The assessment center is tomorrow for that position, so things are moving along, not only to fill that command position, but then to recruit also a new firefighter paramedic to join the ranks of a great. Recent hires shown here in the photos to the right. Neil Zarn is our new public works maintenance worker. He comes with a good amount of experience in infrastructure maintenance. And our new certified water operator, Caden Kowalski, he had done a youth apprenticeship program in high school with the water utility, has passed his first level of exams for plant operator, and it's great to see an outstanding young person joining the ranks in a field. Just again showing it's in fire, it's in police, but it's also true in the utilities and public works. There's some great career options in city government using technology and serving the community. So we welcome both Neil and Caden to our city workforce. Over on Lincoln Street, we're still cranking away on that, which is this year's major infrastructure project. There's the water main installation was completed a little over a week ago. There are 2 blocks of new sanitary sewer on that project. The rest of it is tapping into sewer main that was lined fairly recently. That new main installation between 20th and 22nd Streets is currently underway. After this will come the water and sanitary sewer lateral installations. The homes are still being served off temporary water service laterals, as they have throughout the construction project. And the overall goal is to get all that underground infrastructure work wrapped up So Vinton Construction, which is doing the concrete work for Mammoth, the general contractor, we hope to see Vinton in here the week of July 24th. So it always looks good when the curbs start getting poured and the concrete surface goes down. Coming along real well, and kudos to those crews that have been out there working in some pretty hot, dry, dusty conditions. Park improvements, Central Park West 365. Again, on the right, some more photos of the crowd for last week's entertainment. Tony Rocker, I think I called him Tommy Rocker earlier. Tony Rocker in the large crowd on June 29. The donor recognition wall for major donors. Those are major donors that don't have their name associated with naming gifts for major park features, but donors of $10,000 and $15,000 and above are recognized with signs along the wall that runs roughly parallel with Washington Street. Nice job by Signs Plus with those signs and installation by our City Hall maintenance, working with park staff. Where are we on fundraising? Well, our donation goal, as you know, was $800,000. We now stand at $837,000. That's going very well. Divert your eyes over to the right-hand side of the slide, and you'll see that Lisa can still offer up pavers for sale. There's only room, though, for 52 4x8-inch pavers. You can still buy bigger ones if you want to. That area that remains is less than half of a 5x5 foot paver field. 5.5 out of the 6 are full. And it'd be really cool if by the time the dedication rolls around, we could say that all 6 are full. We can't guarantee at this point that your paver will be engraved and ready for the dedication on the 16th, but we'll do our best. And the installer will be back out there very shortly to start installing the balance of the pavers. The other bit of breaking news, it's now official. Two Rivers will be receiving a Vibrant Spaces Grant Award from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation to help fund the Central Park West project. It's a $50,000 grant, which is the maximum available under that program. Word of the grant awards are just starting to trickle out. When the state announced the program last fall, they indicated that up to 30 such grants would be awarded for vibrant outdoor spaces in Wisconsin communities. So again, thanks to the good work by our Community Development Director, Elizabeth Runge, with support from various community groups and, of course, our internal staff. Again, we have scored funding on this WEDC program. And that means we're in pretty good shape on budget. We have, with especially some of the in-kind work done by our city forces, had some overages there. We're not spending too much money with outside contractors, but to fully compensate for that, I think we're going to be okay now with this additional funding, but we're spending it all on the project. But again, $50,000 designated by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Vibrant Spaces Program. Pretty exciting stuff. And again, I don't know that I cited this on the pavers, but we're just shy of $130,000 raised from paver donations. And that's, the big gifts, super important. West Foundation Challenge grant of $300,000, the $50,000 and $60,000, $65,000 commitments for naming gifts, but the pavers and all the other donations, very indicative of great community buy-in and support for the project. So it's time to have a celebration or two. Would remind you again, the weekend of the 15th and the 16th, week and a half away. Going to be another big weekend in Two Rivers. The Schmidt Brothers stage dedication is from noon into the evening on Saturday, July 15th. There'll be a ribbon cutting for the stage, a barbershop harmony show, and a whole lot more. I know they've got ice cream from the Historical Society. They've got various food vendors. I think they now have someone to sell beer and other beverages. That's pending. That may have to be one of those emergency city manager issued special class Bs we have provided for in the ordinance. But by all means, encourage council members to attend those events. There'll be more details coming out in the next week. Some great press in today's Herald Times. Also, the dedication event for the overall park. Remember, at the beginning of the year, we said, oh, please God, let the stage and the lawn in front of it be done in time for the Schmidt Brothers. We'll make a promise, and it's a reach. Well, as it turns out, thanks to some outstanding work by Vinton and their subcontractors and our own city forces in public works, parks, and utilities. Who'd have thunk? Middle of summer, the whole park, darn near, is done and ready to dedicate. So on Sunday, July 16, events start at noon with the Spicy Thai Band taking the stage. Halfway through their sets at 1:30, there is a half-hour park dedication ceremony. More details coming on that. The Spicy Thai Band will take the stage again at 2 o'clock and play till about 3:30. From 3:30 to 6, 10 strings acoustic, which is Jim Van Lannen Jr. and Pete Honzik with some great music through the afternoon into the early evening. And then at 6 p.m., the Lakeshore Wind Ensemble takes the stage for their annual performance in the park, which is always a highlight of the summer season in Central Park. Plenty of food available. We've got Brian's Smokehouse and Nina's Pita House, El Tequila, Mexican food truck, Ma's Kettle Corn, HP Enterprises with burgers and brats, beverages by Two Rivers Rotary, and ice cream. Is that there? Ice cream from the Two Rivers Historical Society. Historical Society and Rotary will be vending out of the pavilion building in the concession area. There will be bounce houses, and there may occasionally be some free T-shirts fired gently out into the crowd.
Darla has a comment real quick, Greg, if she
Yeah.
could.
So with Tony Rocker, that was the very first performance on the new stage.
Yep, just worked out schedule-wise. Yep.
Perfect. Well, it's kind of nice to have that before an event like this. But were there any real bugs that have to be worked out that were found?
I think we are still, the sound, of course, he brought his own sound in. We still have some issues of those resolved. And I'm like, the main stage speakers are okay. We're getting some feedback in some of the remote speakers at the south end of the park. Maybe an issue of shielding some of the cabling for the speakers because it's picking up some interference. That's still on Fearings, the vendor for that. As far as, I think I mentioned on one slide, outstanding punch list items, we are not going to have the poles in time, the support poles for the catenary lighting donated by Next Era. That's just going to have to come a little bit late. It's been a supply chain issue. In order for the restrooms to be open car show weekend, Mike stepped up and reached out and had Ace Hardware locally put in lock sets because the doors were here, but the lock sets weren't. And when you use a public restroom, it's kind of nice to be able to lock the door. So that's outstanding. There are some finish items with the pavilion building. Some of the, I think electric is safe, but temporary with some additional controls to go in. But we're getting a narrower punch list. And I guess I'd say that's typical of any project like this. There are still some things to be worked out, but nothing that should be a deal killer as far as any of the upcoming events. And as you've seen, and if it doesn't bring joy to your heart, I don't know what will. Ever since the car show weekend, there have been little kids and the adults they bring along with them enjoying the water feature. I almost said it. Splashing in the water feature.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool. So I think I pretty well covered that. There will be bounce houses. I like to say live music throughout the afternoon into the evening. The dedication day, we really intend to be a day-long affair. Bring the family in and enjoy. You know, people have been getting together in Central Park in Two Rivers since 1885. That park space was first laid out in 1885. By 1900, there was a raised, six-sided, very traditional bandstand that stood at the center of the park. That was replaced in the 1970s with the bandstand that we all knew and love and said goodbye to earlier this year. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. And anyway, on out and celebrate. Whoa, that wasn't the end. That wasn't near the end. Y'all excited? I'll speed it up. So, what else we got going on with Amanda's off tonight? And of course, Lisa's covering for her. But our municipal clerk, Amanda Berenbrook, was awarded a scholarship for the upcoming Clerks Institute up at UW Green Bay. That's a week-long conference, a lot of good educational information. You find out great things from other cities and some of the crazy things that happen out in the towns and villages, which is up. So congrats to Amanda. Would like to ask Chief Murrock from the fire department up to speak to these next two items on the report. First of those being information on a major structure fire that happened on June 22nd over on Columbus Street. And then likewise, the fact that we do not have search and rescue services this summer out of the U.S. Coast Guard Station, Two Rivers. Dave, please.
Okay, first off, you can see on June 22nd, we responded to a structure fire. It was a 3-stall garage that contained multiple vehicles and petroleum products that ignited a structure that was directly to the west of it. Something that the crews did, I thought they did an excellent job operationally dealing with what they had at the time, 4 crews that were on scene, and the wind conditions and the conditions with the heat that day. As far as the buildings, it's a total loss. Like this does happen. A picture that's a picture before we got there. Only before we bonded with 4 personnel in an engine company, 1 paramedic, a non-firefighter paramedic, and I responded later to take over command. I had the fire knocked down pretty quickly, but what had happened is the fire had gotten up into the attic and it had collapsed the ceilings. So fortunately, there was nobody injured in this fire or operational personnel. I'll tell you, I'd like to give kudos to the gas department, electric department, all of our utilities, public works for their assistance on law enforcement, Red Cross, and some other scene. What people need to do is, operationally, my guys can only work at 100% for so long. So when you see fire trucks rolling into our service area, what I'm doing is I'm pulling my guys out after about 20 minutes. They're rehabbing for a very short time, and they're just looking for hot spots and taking care of what's left of the fire. It's a very tragic situation. 2 people lost their homes.
Very nice duplex structure, totally gutted.
We were able to salvage some items. We stayed on scene for quite some time, salvaging items out of the homes. We were able to recover a gentleman's wedding ring, his wallet, fishing poles. So that's something that we do. We'll stay there as long as we need to salvage items out of there and make sure that the citizens get the resources they need after a tragic event like this. The fire currently is being investigated by Wisconsin DCI and our fire department. I don't have a cause yet for you guys.
Great job by you and your crew on this one. I worked down in that area, and you guys responded quick. You responded well, and like you said, knocked it down pretty good. So kudos to you guys. Did it start in this smaller side-by-side garage there?
It started in that garage, yes. It started in the
Thank you.
garage. There was moderate winds that day. And what had happened is the winds had caught the fence. And when I arrived on scene shortly after the engine company arrived on scene, a gas meter ignited, and it looked like a flamethrower. As you can see on the center of that house, it was blowing up into the
And very rapid response by WPS.
very rapid
crews
response,
as well.
very dangerous fire. I wasn't inclined to put my guys inside there, and it was the right choice because the ceilings collapsed in that building very quickly. And like I said, it's not often that we respond to a fire where the gas meter is ignited. Well, the guys sprayed it out, and I had one of my Captain Kranick, went and shut it off, and we were assisted by the gas company, who responded very quickly.
Next slide relates to the Coast Guard. I know the fire department was called upon very recently to respond to a boater in distress out on the lake, and that underscores that indeed this summer we do not have Coast Guard search and rescue coverage in Two Rivers.
Yeah, this is by virtue of answering the phone 24 hours a day. People do call us quite often or frequently for assistance in the rivers and out on the lake. That's something that I'm working with some other departments that we're gonna make an informational flyer on what services we do offer, and we're gonna put together a resource list if something happens. And the reason for this is we're trying to bring all these tourists into the community. You come in with your boats and you wanna go on the river, you wanna go out on the lake. You wanna have some resource in case your boat breaks down, the bilge pump goes out on your boat starts on fire, or you're stuck in the river. So that moving forward, that's what we'd like to do. The fire department is the only entity right now that can go out and help you. The Coast Guard right now is staffed with personnel that are there for navigation, basically putting buoys out in the lake. And I'm not minimizing what they do at all, because it's a very important job as far as navigation and marking points and
Keep boaters out of rough situations.
the waterways, but they don't have a rescue craft there. Typically what happened in the past is my paramedics would respond if there was an incident out there. They would jump on the boat with the Coast Guard. They would go out and take care of the problem. Right now, we just have the fire department boat to go out there, and we rely on private citizens that have been helping us a lot. And kudos to the people that live in the city of Two Rivers, the fishermen and the people that live along the rivers. They've been helping us. One incident was a bilge pump on a large fishing boat that went out, and we went about a mile out with our boat near dark. And our guys escorted the boat into Seagull Marina with the assistance of, there was 2 or 3 fishing vessels there. The captain obviously did not want to get off his boat. So we just stayed with in case it went down, so we could jump in and get him and bring him back in. But the vessel they brought the vessel in. The second one that was most recent, we had a gentleman get hung up on a sandbar in the river. And basically what we do is we go out there, assess the situation. If we can, we'll help them try to push it out, but we do a lot of risk management with that. That was something that my 2 guys that went out their boat, they couldn't help, so they pulled him off the boat, and he received the help from numerous people from the community. They went out there in boats and pushed it off the sandbar. So we don't have a company in the city of Two Rivers or in the area that can pull boats off sandbars. Just imagine you owning some of these boats were, to my surprise, very expensive, like $70,000 boats that beach up on these sandbars. And it was my boat, I'd want to get it off as soon as possible, but there's not too many people that can pull it off. You'd have to call someone from Green Bay, or I'm assuming Milwaukee. So we'll figure out some resources to help these people and get that out there so dispatch can call somebody, because it's very frustrating being an entity that people call for help and not having a resource for them.
Honestly, the Coast Guard, and I heard this from their Sheboygan Group commander at a meeting a while ago about the Marine Sanctuary. And like everybody else, they've got staffing and personnel shortfalls. I think all of the armed services are having struggles meeting their recruitment authorized levels. I don't know what seasonal occupation that used to have personnel assigned to it. We were lucky. We were lucky for a long time. There are a lot of communities with significant boating traffic that don't have a Coast Guard presence anymore, and that's a shame. There's also limitations, even with good equipment and training, on what a fire department can do, honestly, versus a full-blown Coast Guard unit. So those opportunities, the need for serving as best we can, but also those very real limitations are things that need to be kept in mind. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah,
Thanks for
absolutely.
those
And
good efforts.
we do have training coming up. You'll see us at the swim club. We have training, and actually this is the first year we're doing it with some police personnel. And basically it's our yearly training where it's competency training. So just assuring that my guys can still swim and still can jump in the water and rescue somebody. We do it every year. So if you ever have any questions on house fires or any of this stuff, feel free to call my cell 24 hours a day. Can't guarantee I'll answer it, but please do.
Thank you, Chief.
I was just apologizing to Mr. Soxy, who I have as an invited guest and proceeded to skip right over, but he's good and tells me he's thoroughly enjoying the meeting so far. So, or words to that effect. So we'll move along there. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Murak. This one, just another update. So far, so good this year on our purchase power adjustment factor on utility bills, straight off the PSC website for the first 6 months of the year. 4 out of 5 of those months, the PCAC has been negative, and the average is 0.26 cents per kilowatt hour compared to our base rate of 10.3 cents per kilowatt hour. The year-to-date average bill for somebody using 600 kilowatt hours is $71.25. That's a little better than this time last year when it was $72.01. Of course, last year we got hit really hard in July and August because a couple of coal-fired plants had unexpected outages. We'll give you another comparison a couple months out in August, but so far so good. Following up a little on some of Adam's comments earlier, we had a phenomenal turnout at the beach the last 2 weekends, including the long July 4th holiday weekend. There was a big crowd for Tuesday night's fireworks, both at Walsh Field and dispersed throughout the community. Pleased to report, and Chief Minor shared first thing this morning, no major issues over the weekend with thousands of holiday visitors enjoying our community. And just to echo, thanks to Parks and Rec staff for event setup, maintaining the facilities throughout the entire holiday weekend. Everything was operational. They were running for a pizza oven yesterday because the one at the beach died. The restrooms were stocked and clean and presentable. And when you're hosting that many people, that says something. I wouldn't want that many people showing up at my house and need to keep up with cleaning and toilet paper and all that. So thank you. Kudos. Great job. And likewise, our police and fire staff for pre-planning, for the parking regulation and crowd control and keeping everybody safe. It was an awesome weekend. And last, definitely not least, thank you, fireworks sponsors. Roughly $10,000 blown into the sky and a bargain at that price. I think people would agree it was a wonderful show. Again, as Spielbauer always does for us. Keep in mind those sponsors that are arrayed on the slide here. So from the rocket sponsors, Sprang Tree Farms, Port Sandy Bay, Community First, Bank First, to the missile and firecracker sponsors. Those folks make it possible. And it is truly from the community. You look at the variety of organizations and businesses and individuals there. And I talked to a couple last night that are donors and said, we love this show and we hope to step it up even more in terms of our financial support next year. So that's also, the community loves it. And that also means our Park and Rec department staff are treating them right and showing respect and appreciation to our sponsors. Coming up, concerts in the park Thursday night, heck, tomorrow night, 6 to 8. The Works, and a few familiar faces there, including Biff Hansen with that group. They'll be in Central Park, 6 to 8 p.m. tomorrow. This coming Saturday, there is a privately organized Cool City Classic Boat Show over at Vets Park. That's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. with some very cool antique and classic boats on display. This weekend, Saturday, July 8th, also Bands on the Beach, Annex, that's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the best beach in Wisconsin this coming Saturday. Next Tuesday, Chalk It Up Kids Night. And where is that one, Mike? Do you know offhand? Over at Koenig, Kids Night. Hot dogs, soda, chips available for purchase. Cool City Crime Prevention Committee will take care of some of the Chalk It Up artwork. And it also is the Cones with Cops event. There'll be officers there to play with the kids and hand out ice cream. You'll be hearing more probably at the next meeting from Chief Minert on National Night Out activities. That's in early August. Again, just a reminder on the Schmidt Brothers stage dedication. And one more time, a shout out to the Raider manufacturing students at Two Rivers High School with some help from some of the art classes that did a phenomenal design and fabrication job on those panels that are the backdrop for the Schmidt Brothers stage. Celebrating Central Park West, the dedication, again, featuring Spicy Thai Band, 10 Strings, and the Lakeshore Wind Ensemble. Lots of great things on Sunday, July 16. Other things coming up. the Latino American Beach Festival on July 14 and 15, Friday and Saturday. Group that has reserved the park and has 2 full days of food, activity, contests, competitions lined up with a Latin flair at Neshota Beach. Check that out. All of these events on Explore Two Rivers. A legislative and intergovernmental update, none. The governor's got a budget sitting on his desk. We'll see what he does with overall vetoes or line item vetoes, as the Wisconsin governor has the authority. Of course, we're all heaving a sigh of relief that separate legislation on shared revenues passed, is on the books, and bodes well for Two Rivers. On the tourism front, Two Rivers, Fremont, and Clintonville are the 3 cities featured in this year's version of Fox Cities Magazine's Worth the Drive. Fox Cities Magazine targets a lot of the lodging and hospitality facilities in the Fox Valley, and each summer they highlight communities that are within a fairly short drive of Appleton and the Fox Cities. This year, Explore Two Rivers, Brian Dean, our tourism director, headed up the effort working with TRBA and some local businesses and attractions for this advertising spread, but also working with the staff at Fox Cities Magazine on editorial content. You each have copies of the publication with a great picture of the Two Rivers North Pier and Lake Michigan on the cover. And you'll see there's some really great stuff on Two Rivers in this. So I'd like if Brian could come up just for a minute to talk about this, and also a new feature. I was going to say to watch for it, but you really need to be listening for it on 2 minutes from Two Rivers.
And council members, and thank you. Indeed, the Fox Cities Magazine spread, it took considerable effort and collaboration community-wide to get this thing done, and done in a way that was stylistically representative of our city. We think it was done very well. Obviously, 99% of the feedback so far has been extremely positive, and we think it's going to generate a considerable number of visitors from that key demographic area, that affluent area in the Fox Valley that is so easily accessible to us, and they are so accessible to us. So we're pleased with this, and I think most importantly, expanding this group that we worked with a little bit. The next time we're presented with an opportunity like this, we have a template in place now for working collaboratively across the community when opportunities like this to present themselves. So we can work with the business community, with the destinations like Woodland Dunes, and with the bed and breakfast, and with Point Beach. And in collaboration, we can come together, put together a stylistically consistent piece, thematically consistent, and one that really provides a solid vision of what Two Rivers is, and encourage people to come here, stay here, and perhaps invest here, and buy a permanent home or a vacation home or something like that. As Greg indicated, we're also going on the airwaves. We entered into today formally an agreement with Seehafer. We're going to be doing a weekly 2-minute segment called 2 Minutes with Two Rivers. That intellectual property belongs to Elizabeth, who came up with the name. So kudos to her for that. And we're going to be on, it's going to be Greg and I, and, we probably will expand upon that, but in 120 seconds, we're going to talk about everything that's coming up in the week, any topical issues. I mean, Greg went through a bunch of these things, but we're making our first recording on Friday morning, and we've got the Brian Lee Blues Festival to talk about. We've got the Latin American Fest, where we're going to celebrate our Latin American neighbors and friends and citizens, the Schmidt Brothers dedication. And one of the things that I intend to do is to close the thing off every week with a fishing report and a guidance toward the website, where we have the list of all of the charters that are down at the marina. And
Fishing is great so far this year.
And the fishing is excellent. I was down there at the Seagull Marina today looking for Keith Heberlein. He was not there, but I spoke with a couple of the other charter captains. The rainbow trout and the coho are running strong. And in addition to that, in conversations with the administrator of the Shipwreck Coast Sanctuary, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Agency, Russ Green out of Sheboygan. They've placed two very high-tech buoys off of Two Rivers, really make it uniquely situated in our waters. And at the request of Explore Two Rivers, they're providing that information to our charters. And, from what I understand, that's going to provide an unprecedented level of information on changing and shifting water temperatures, variations in tides, depths, and so forth, and information that can be incredibly valuable, from what I understand, to the charter community and the success of their trips with their clients. So those two items are important. I wanted to bring up one other thing, and we are, I think, a day away from finalizing an agreement with a firm where Explore Two Rivers will be purchasing time on a massive 50-foot tall digital billboard south of Sheboygan, where we will be given 6 seconds every 60 seconds for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we can change and vary. This can be topical, full, very visible, strong resolution graphics, moving graphics. We can promote the beach. We can promote events. We can promote our charter fishing industry. We can give fishing reports. We can talk about anything related to Two Rivers that's coming up. And I would encourage the council to come to me with any suggestions and ideas you might have for what we put on that sign, because it's going to be in a key area, and we can come up with clever signs like your vacation starts in 46 miles at the Two Rivers exit or something. I mean, we can do that kind of stuff, but we can also do very specific topical event related things. And we have that through October. And that, in combination with the radio and increased advertising and some new merchandise and some new collateral material that we're putting in kiosks and things in various places around town. Today I went from the car ferry all the way to Point Beach and every point in between, loading everybody up. And we're in full operational mode at Explore Two Rivers right now, and there's a lot going on, and that's just a sample. But I think you'll all be encouraged, and I think that we will certainly see considerable results from all of these projects. Thank you very much. If there's any questions.
Yeah, who submitted the pictures? You? Did you take them?
Some of the pictures within that two-page, this page was 1/3 purchased by Explore Two Rivers. The picture of them, some of them come from the library archives. Some of them were taken by a photographer that we work with periodically on a contractual basis. Some of them may have been taken by Greg. I don't know, but it's a variety of sources. The spread is 7 pages. Aside from these 2 pages, the remainder are either other advertisements from local companies that were approached independently, or or it's the editorial content of Fox Cities Magazine. And those photographs that you see outside of this 2-page spread were taken by Fox Cities Magazine and their photographer and their people. They worked very closely with us, and you will see that very cleverly, Visit Manitowoc placed a half-page ad right in the middle of our section. I think that's fine because we share a lot of common tourist thematic issues like the Maritime Museum and Rogers Street and the Point Beach and the Shipwreck Coast. So that's not something that we take any offense to whatsoever, but I just thought it was unique and kind of funny. Other than that, things are moving along, and I welcome all of you to contact me. I did reach out to an individual that the chairman suggested we reach out to concerning a ferry, a cruise opportunity for Two Rivers. I will be following up on that. I spoke with him once, and then I was out for a couple of weeks on an emergency leave. Back now, and I will be following up on that and pursuing it because I think it's an outstanding concept, and it's one that we've thought of earlier as well. On the final note, I was out at Point Beach today and met with Aaron and the team out there, gave them some of our stuff, and discussed with them briefly the idea. They get something like 150,000 campers a summer, and a lot of them want to get out of the campground and come to the beach, go to the city, maybe hire a charter. do something like that. So I'm going to work with my board very close on how we can structure some sort of facilitate not just the informational side, but the transit side of getting campers to go beyond, Pick and Save. That's wonderful that they go to Pick and Save and the gas stations, but we'd like to see them go to some of our other establishments and enjoy some of our other businesses as well. So that's the end of my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm always available to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good note to John Wyrostek, who's president of the Friends of Point Beach, is of course on the Explore Two Rivers Board and on the National Marine Sanctuary Citizen Advisory Board. That board will be meeting here in TR later this month, and we'll let you know. We've extended an invitation if there's enough interest for brats and burgers in the new Central Park before they convene for the regular bi-monthly meeting in this room. But we look forward to hosting. Good stuff. In fact, there was an assistant administrator from NOAA in town last week and at the Maritime Museum. Both Mayor Nichols and I had a chance to sit down with him and his first trip to this area and share some good information. Also on the tourism front, I won't bore down on the details or bore on the details on this, but this ongoing progress report that we provide you with showing 6 years, including 2023 year to date on room tax revenue history. We are just a tad, as in like $500 ahead of last year's pace, but last year's was a record pace that brought in $284,000 in room tax. So looking good, and that's just through May. The summer numbers yet to come in, but summer looks real good. Meanwhile, back in Central Park, we've got a largely senior audience at Tony Rocker, but a reminder with the water feature that's also what it's all about. Thank you.
Here's a picture that'll make you smile. Don't forget our invited guest as well. We're gonna
Yes,
invite him
and
up.
also to make you smile, our invited guest, Tony Soxie from Snowfest. Tony, there is an item or two on the agenda tonight pertaining to Snowfest. Tony, thank you for your patience. I apologize again for my omission. The floor is yours.
That's okay. I actually just simply, when we sent that stuff over to Greg, said, hey, I'll be here if you guys have any questions. I didn't realize that meant coming up to talk to everybody. But hey.
Tell us about
no
the
worries.
great things happening at Snowfest this year.
So July 28th, 29th, and 30th, a weekend later than it usually is this year. It's going to be third year back. We're excited. We've got 9 bands. We're really excited to be welcoming in a multi-platinum national touring act on Saturday night. That's along with that parade. I did extend the invitation. I hope you guys all got this. I'd love the council and the city manager to march in on Saturday.
It'll be still okay to be in the parade because I'm not sure if we got back to you or not. Okay.
I already got you blocked out where you're going to be, so you're in there regardless. So just whenever.
That better, yeah, because we just don't want a bracketed space. So we'll get a reminder of.
Sounds good.
Hillside Parade?
Yeah. Like last year, it is on Columbus Street, going to run from 7th to 18th Street. We're going to be putting out some publicity about that. That is part of the road closure request we did submit to you guys. Additionally, did submit a road closure request for the event through Pierce Street as it goes through Neshoto Park just for foot traffic. But again, really excited for all the music and the family fun that we're going to have there. Vendor fair on both Saturday and Sunday, and getting a lot of contact and a lot of interest from people. So I think we're going to have a pretty decent amount.
Any questions from council? Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thank you. All right, then on to the consent agenda. Under A, we have presentation of minutes. There are 2. We have a city council meeting of June 19th, 2023, and also a city council work session meeting of June 26th, 2023. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the minutes. Under B, finance reports for May of 2023, there are 4. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under C, applications and petitions, we have 4 of those. We have a temporary Class B retailer's license from Woodland Dunes Nature Center for Hike and Brew fundraiser, September 8th, 2023 at Woodland Dunes. We also have a temporary Class B retailer's license from Rogers Street Fishing Village for Roger Street Day's annual fundraiser, August 11th and 12th, 2023, at Roger Street Fishing Village. The recommended action is a motion to approve the application and authorize issuance of the licenses. Under 3, application for commercial hauler's license recommended for approval. It is for GFL Environmental Midwest at 428 High Street in Chilton. The recommended action, motion to approve the application and authorize the engineering department to issue the licenses. And finally, under 4, alcohol renewal applications for the 2023-2024 licensing year. We have one for a combination Class B, and we have one for a combination Class A/Class A. And the recommended action is a motion to approve the application and authorize the city clerk to issue the licenses. And finally, under D, we have a noise ordinance waiver for Snowfest 2023, July 28th through the 30th until 12 a.m. at Neshoto Park to waive the provisions of sections 9-2-5B, 2B regarding noise audible within an enclosed structure used for residential purposes, and section 9-2-5D pertaining to vibration and Snowfest road closure of Pierce Street from 21st Street to Zlatnik Drive to run from 8 a.m. July 28th to July 30th at 7 p.m. and Snowfest Parade Route closure of Columbus Street between Memorial Drive and State Highway 42 and Highway 310, Saturday, July 29th, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. The recommended action is a motion to approve the noise ordinance waiver, and the recommended action for the consent agenda as a whole is a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Looking for a motion on this. Thank you, Bill. Second by Tim. Council discussion.
Just it probably goes without saying, but the recommended action on D, 9D really should include both the noise ordinance waiver and the street closures as requested. That was just an omission from the recommended action. So
we are including everything in D as
Yeah.
I read,
yeah,
FYI.
kind of the omnibus Snowfest request.
Got it. All right, Jeff.
For the combination Class B liquor license, what business are they?
Should be in the packet. Right?
It's in the packet.
I didn't see it in there.
Application for
Or
class.
it's online at least. It's online otherwise.
Okay.
It was somewhere because I thought I saw it.
There's page 76 and 77.
Looks like Fresh Coast is the one. And Walgreens. Fresh Coast and Walgreens. It's kind of small print. But yeah, Fresh Coast
Yeah,
and
that's what I
Walgreens are
said.
the two.
Okay.
Sure. Any other questions? See none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. On to 10 city council formal items. We have 4 of those. Under A, we have a consideration to modification to tax incremental financing, cash grant, and developers performance agreement with West Rivers Lofts LLC approved by council on June 19th, pertaining to the payment in lieu of taxes if property becomes exempt in the future, and the option to purchase a portion of the development site located adjacent to the CN Railroad. The recommended action is a motion to approve the modifications to this previously approved agreement. I know that was in our packet, or is this sitting on our side? This was
It's a
sitting
little
on the
bit of
side.
both, actually.
Yep.
In the course of the vigorous discussion and ultimately the vote 2 weeks ago on the development agreement pertaining to West River Lofts, there were a couple of things that were discussed, not formally added to the motion. These are both, quite honestly, very one-sided in favor of the city. So after discussion with the city attorney, by the way, Jack apologizes, but he had a scheduling conflict tonight. We thought it would be best to bring this proposed amendment. First is providing for a payment in lieu of taxes, not only during the life of the agreement that was approved, which is basically the life of the TIF district, but extending out from 2000, from revenue year 2046 to 2066, so 20 years out beyond the end of the TIF district, to provide that should the property that is the subject of the agreement, the West River Loft site, ever become exempt from property taxes, that during that, well, first of all, during the life of the TIF, it has to meet the minimum revenue requirement that was in the agreement, but further providing that they would pay either that minimum annual revenue requirement or the amount derived by taking the last assessed value before the property went exempt, if it goes exempt, multiplying it by the current year tax rate, then it's the higher of the two figures. Because quite conceivably, the taxes would be higher than the minimum revenue requirement. So that gets you to the end of the period for the development agreement and the TIF. But to go 20 years beyond that, we've added language, and that's what the companion piece is on as well. We've got language in the agreement that says this will also apply in revenue years 2046 through 2066. Well, in those years, you don't have the TIF agreement in place, so we're not necessarily worried about meeting the minimum revenue requirement. So for that period, we address solely taking the most recent assessed value before the property went exempt, multiplying it by the current year tax rate. That's referenced in the red line language that you got in the development agreement, but then because it is a commitment that would extend beyond the term of that agreement, there's also referenced in the agreement execution of a payment in lieu of taxes agreement. And that's what you have as the separate handout. Got that from the city attorney Monday, went over it with him today. And that again is providing that from tax year 2045, which is revenue year 2046, if it becomes tax exempt anytime between 2045 and 2065, there'll be a payment in lieu of taxes. Point number 2 addresses what happens if only part of the site becomes exempt. Well, then you take the same calculation of what taxes should have been, but deduct from that any amount actually to be paid in taxes. Thirdly, it establishes that those payments in lieu of taxes would be due by the 30th day of June for the revenue year in question. And also we pulled the definitions of tax year and revenue year out of the TIF agreement in point number 4. So there's no confusion. You could be reading this agreement without having to go find a copy of the development agreement, because tax year and revenue year have their definitions in here the same as in the development agreement. And point 5 is just that the agreement will bind and run to the benefit of the parties and their successors and assigns. So there's the pilot agreement or payment in lieu of taxes agreement, not just during the term of the TIF, but 20 years out. Think about it, 2066 we're talking about. And then language in there that formally incorporates the option to purchase that triangular parcel by the railroad. We had the option in front of council 2 weeks ago. We made reference to the easement in front of council 2 weeks ago. We made reference to the option. The option is now in the agreement. Sorry, that was kind of garbled, but quick summary. It formally would add 2 things I believe are clearly in the city's benefit to the agreement previously approved. Pilot, payment in lieu of taxes for the balance of the TIF and 20 years beyond, and the option to purchase or just to continue using it as an easement, that triangular area identified next to the CN trestle. So I would urge council members, whatever your views on the overall agreement, this vote is on 2 amendments that simply make it better for the city. Recommend approval.
Does it reference, I don't recall, what we would purchase that triangle for?
I believe it's for
The
$1.
fair market value?
Hold on. It is $1. I just wanted to confirm that. Purchase price shall be $1. That's on page, well, of the agreement, page 41 of 45, if you're looking at bottom center. Yep, $1. And the reason we did it both as an option, both as an easement and as an option to purchase, the easement is pretty extensive. It relates to using that triangle for public access, for demo of the railroad bridge if the city ever comes to own it, or work on the railroad bridge if the city were to ever come to own it. So it gives the city pretty broad rights, sometimes with various state and federal grant programs. If they're providing, say, capital funds, if we were to do something with a trail connection there, that's just speculation on my part. It'd be a very cool thing. The funding agencies want to see fee simple ownership of the property by the municipality that's getting funded. So this way we go in with an option, but likewise, we go in with an easement, but would have the ability per terms of the option to purchase it for $1.
Okay. This is probably a very good thing for the city because it kind of protects us in case it goes exempt, and all the efforts that we're putting in there as a city with the TIF.
We've done that with some of our other TIF agreements. And of course, we heard that concern last time it wasn't in the agreement in front of you.
Yes, that came from me, I know for sure. Looking for a motion on this before we get into discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Seconded by,
I'll second it.
thank you, Scott. Council discussion. Seeing none, seeing we are kind of amending the agreement, we're going to go to a roll call vote. Lisa.
Can I
Oh,
just
go
ask
ahead.
a
Yep,
question?
sorry.
This handout you gave tonight, is that supposed to be an I mean, I know you kind of explained it, but I just want to be clear.
Well,
Is that supposed to be an explanation of the red on,
yes, the red, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for the right page.
that was page 88 out of 136. I don't,
Yes,
page 5
we
or 8.
talked about the payment in lieu of taxes, or on page 9 of the agreement, whatever page Bonnie just referenced as part of the agenda pack. And we do
Well, that's
reference
all I
there,
wanted to know.
the very last red paragraph, because this provision will remain in effect beyond the term of this agreement, developer agrees to execute a payment in lieu of taxes agreement, a copy of which is attached as Exhibit H. So we referenced it in the revised agreement, but then said, you know what? We need a separate recordable document that can exist out there on the record, separate from this agreement. And that is what we provided tonight. So it's referenced in what you got with your packet on Friday, and this is the pilot agreement that's referenced.
Any other discussion? Sorry about that, Bonnie.
Thank you. Good question.
Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Lisa.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Tim Patry,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimalunas,
No,
Scott Steckmeister,
Aye.
Adam Husky,
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
aye.
All right, 7-1, that carries. On to B, consideration of location for friendship table sculpture by the Czech sculptor. Yeah,
Václav Fiala.
thank you.
Yep.
In Central Park East. The recommended action is a motion to place the friendship table in Central Park East. Anything you want to add to that, Greg or Mike?
I just would note the council passed a resolution back in August of last year authorizing the eventual placement of this friendship table in Central Park East, the area here in front of City Hall. Our original thought as a staff and talking with Patrick Duane, who's kind of been our go-between with the artist and with folks from the Sister Cities Committee, we were gravitating toward the south end of the park around an existing mature tree that's about far south end and the center. But then when we recognized there's a fair amount of digging and a pretty fair foundation that's needed underneath this structure, we might not want to be doing that in the root zone of one of our mature trees. So I believe it was last week with Patrick, with Brenda Kaprowski from the Sister Cities Group, with our city engineer, we walked the park. The thought is a new tree will be planted that will be at the center of these two concentric rings. Remember, there's a granite table. It's not a complete circle. It has an opening at the end with American and Czech flags on it. I don't show it here. And then there's an outer granite arc, almost a complete circle, that is a seating area around the table. So tree, tabletop bench. The outer diameter is about 12 feet. We did the metric conversion. Frankly, we're thinking instead of a solid concrete base, which would be a whole lot of concrete, it would probably be more like with sonnet tubes. So the individual supports can just rest on that foundation, and that gives some room for a tree to grow some roots. But the area, I'm sorry, it doesn't show real well here, but the area just off 18th Street, about midstream, east to west in the park, Matt marked out with some yellow, pink marking tape there. It's just a little bit off the 18th Street sidewalk. The thought is a little connecting walk could be put in there. It keeps us out of the northerly area of Central Park between that light fixture and the fountain that's often used as staging for Brew Dash and other things, and would still be in a very visible location. I did also, excuse me. Other slide, that just shows the artist in his studio. On top of the table will be an American GI helmet and a Czech peasant's hat, as is the case with the companion piece in Domažlice. There is the table being readied for shipment. It's in a crate, and we think in a container headed for an ocean-going vessel right now. And we're keeping our fingers crossed on a dedication event in August. So, yeah, same park, different location. It will entail the planting of a new tree instead of working around an existing one. And I know after our meeting, Matt did brief Mike from Parks and Rec on on the plan as well.
Okay. Looking for a motion on this.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Tracy. Seconded by, thank you, Jeff. Any council discussion? Yes,
Just real
Scott.
quick, I like the spot where it is. I noticed it when I pulled in tonight for the,
And I apologize, I
meeting
meant to
tonight, I
email
noticed
all
it
of you
there.
and say that it's all outlined in pink. It shows very well.
yeah, I think it's a good spot right there. You'll see it pretty easily coming down Washington Street, so.
And the thought is there won't be accompanying signage other than maybe the name of the piece and the name of the artist. But the discussion was to put a QR code on any modest signage, and that can take you to the Accidental Hero website, all sorts of information about the artist and the work he's done, which is pretty broadly distributed in the Czech Republic and elsewhere in Europe. So remember, this is all being the sculpture and its shipping fundraised through private donations, and a donation, I want to say equivalent to about $10,000 American by Domažlice. The city's end of the deal is basically to install the foundation and to provide the space in the park.
Okay. Anything else? Tim?
What's the purpose of the treatment center again?
I think that's just part of the sculpture itself, because it's like a table or a seating area.
Mhm.
And I think that's what it was designed for, was to go around a tree.
So you couldn't move it over and have the light so that you had a light at the table? or something?
We
Well,
did
it's
talk
good-
about that as well, centered around the light, but the whole concept from the artist was around a tree. And we want to be careful about the type of tree we select, so we'll turn to our Parks and Rec director. We'll recommend that.
Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. On to C, electric utility bucket truck replacement. The recommended action is a motion to approve the quote for a 2025 Model International from Utility Sales and Service for the amount of $356,067 as recommended by the Utility Committee on June 5th, 2023. I will make that correction.
That is correct. I caught that as I was sitting at the table as well.
It's from the future, yeah. Report from the head guy from the crew that keeps the lights on.
Yes, go ahead, Brian.
Right.
So, good evening, everybody. So what I'm bringing to you tonight is a memo and the actual quote from Utility Sales for the replacement of our 2013 model bucket truck. We're looking at going in a different direction with the style of truck. As explained in my memo, right now we're what we call it is an over center mount. It's actually full length booms, both top and bottom. What we're looking at doing is to basically have a twin of our 2018 model bucket truck right now, where it's actually a squirt style boom. It's actually a boom inside of a boom that extends and retracts.
What that provides is actually the lower boom is actually shorter, therefore allowing it to move across it's a shorter distance into the roadway. So therefore it's less hazard to motorists or even the occupant in the bucket. Going through this, we kept it very bare bones, no extraordinary bells and whistles or anything like that. And price tag is up there. $356.67 is as the quote with the delivery date of April of 2025. The build spots are all the way into 2025, and there's a limited number of available spots for the trucks to be built.
Hey, questions for just Brian if you want. Go ahead. No, yep, go ahead.
The delivery date is 25?
Correct.
Okay, so now, how are you budgeting this? You probably don't have
We would-
money this year, but you're gonna start paying next year? It's
No,
just-
we would budget for it for 2025, and I have discussed this with the
Okay.
finance director, Dave Buss. Our cash balances are favorable right now.
Right.
So actually looking at comparison to last year, we're actually showing a 350,000 increase from 2022. So, right now our finances are looking well.
Anybody else? Questions for Brian?
Brian, what's the status? Council had previously approved a Digger Derrick truck replacement,
Correct. We're
right?
gonna be looking at delivery in September, November. Something, a time frame.
Appreciate the
The-
support the Utilities Committee and Council have provided, because even though we've been through some difficult and unusual times on pricing of equipment, we've got to have the ability to respond when the community needs it. So, thanks.
I do have a question as well. So you said you were ahead of where we were last year. We're not gonna get a surprise in a year or two and say, all of a sudden, we need a rate increase.
I
You
was
knew it was
waiting.
coming. I'm sure you did, but.
I've been told by Dave Buss, right now, he is not looking at any type of rate increases or forecasting any type of rate increases for the electric utility, no.
Okay. Because that would obviously be a concern of mine.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Questions for Brian?
And honestly, to Brian's earlier comment and the question about financing, the electric utility cash is looking good right now. The electric utility is also virtually debt-free. So depending on what rates are and the climate for financing, I'm not saying we won't be back for the 2025 budget, saying that some or all of this would be better funded through debt, because it is a long-term, a long-lived asset. But
I'm okay with that. I just,
Yep.
I don't want to see a rate increase due to it.
I hear you. I hear you.
That's
Of course,
my concern.
I don't want to keep rates low and not be able to respond. So it's
No.
a trade-off.
Yep,
Always a
definitely got a
trade-off.
balance.
Yep.
Jeff?
Now, just repeating what we had talked about in the meeting, now that price isn't fixed, it's going to be.
That is
different.
correct. Yes, there is in the document, basically, it does not say that this is a fixed price. So when 2025 budget comes around, it may be a couple percent higher. But we will have to bring that back at that time and, make that authorization if that needs to be the case.
Unfortunately, that's the world we're living in right now.
Sorry, I just want to make that clear to the public.
Oh, thank you.
And
Anybody
for
else? Tim?
Safety practice, this would standardize controls between both trucks and stuff, so it'd make it easier for operators. Not that you hop from one truck to the other and end up turning the wrong way or doing something wrong.
Basically, we'd want to make it like matching identical trucks.
It's not like if you hop into your wife or your husband's car and don't even know how to take the windows down. Bad comparison.
Anybody else before we ask for a motion? Questions for Brian? All right, seeing none, looking for a motion on this.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Tim. Council discussion amongst each other. Seeing none, roll call vote. Lisa?
Tim Patry,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimalunas,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser,
Aye.
Adam Wahusky,
Aye.
Jeff Dalke,
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc. Aye. All in favor.
All right, thank you very much. On to D, proclamation for Brian Lee Day of July 22nd, 2023. The recommended action is a motion to read and adopt the proclamation. I would say let's go ahead and read that proclamation, and then we will
Okay.
see if we like it.
Very good. Get better. This is a Resolution proclaiming July 22, 2023 as Brian Lee Day in the city of Two Rivers. Whereas Brian Lee, also known as the Braille Blues Daddy, blind giant of the blues, a New Orleans blues institution, was born March 16, 1943 in the city of Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and passed away at the age of 77 on August 21, 2020 in Sarasota, Florida. And whereas Brian Lee made the world a better place by dedicating his life to and sharing his God-given musical talent and love of early rock and blues, living by the creed that, quote, a gift is not a gift unless you share it, end quote. And whereas Brian Lee began performing professionally at the age of 13 in his hometown of Two Rivers and continued playing all over the world, touring the Midwest, Eastern Seaboard, Rocky Mountain states, Canada, Europe, and Brazil until the year 2020. And whereas Brian Lee recorded 18 albums over 4 decades, bookended by 1979's Beauty Isn't Always Visual and 2018's Sanctuary, appearing on various labels that included Just in Time, Severin Records, and Irrelevant Records. And whereas Brian Lee's achievements included a 2011 Grammy nomination with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, 2008 German Critics Award for Outstanding Blues for Katrina Was Her Name, 2011 BMA Blues Rock Album of the Year, 2015 Big City Rhythm and Blues Lifetime Achievement Award, 2016 Legendary Blues Artist Blues Hall of Fame, 2016 Legendary Blues Artist Florida Blues Hall of Fame, 2017 WAMI Lifetime Achievement Award, 2018 Phoenix Radio Lifetime Achievement Award, and numerous Blues Societies awards. And whereas Brian Lee was a remarkable soul who greeted each day with gratitude, optimism, and humble joy for all his blessings and gave immeasurable musical enjoyment to his legion of worldwide fans. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Two Rivers declares July 22, 2023, the date for the 3rd annual Brian Lee Memorial Blues Festival as Brian Lee Day in the city of Two Rivers, and urges all citizens and visitors to join in the full slate of activities planned for that day to celebrate the gifts of this talented son of Two Rivers as his music continues to enrich the soundtrack of our lives. Dated this 5th day of July 2023 by action of the Two Rivers City Council.
Very good. Looking for a motion on this. Darla? Seconded by Bill. Council discussion. All right, just so everyone knows, when he says whammy, that is the Wisconsin industry as well. So I know just before that, it recognized Florida, just so we know whammy, Wisconsin did recognize him as well. That is the WAMI. So just for clarification. Not that it need to be clarified, but I think it's only right that if he passed away in Florida and they recognized him, that we want to make sure Wisconsin recognized him too, and they did. So. Without any further discussion, this is a roll call vote. Lisa?
Bonnie Shimalunas,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser, Adam Ohusky,
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey,
Aye.
Lucy Coach, Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc, aye, and Tim Patry,
Aye.
all in favor.
All right, thank you very much for that. And on for information only, Greg, you got it?
We have another regular meeting in 2 weeks. I'm winging it here,
I got
work
it then.
session at the end of the month.
We have a city council regular meeting of Monday, July 17th, 2023 at 6 p.m. and a city council work session meeting Monday, July 31st, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
There you go. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Darla. Council discussion. See none. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you and good night. It's 7:30. Not bad.
On the button.
On the button.